Welcome to the channel, people. As always, these videos are just my opinion mixed in with what will most likely happen for Borderlands 3 and what I hope happens for Borderlands 3. In this video, we'll be talking about the experimental game mechanics. I'll explain what that is in a second. But as always, remember to check out my other game channel, YC Games, and also leave a comment telling me how to get better. Thank you and enjoy the video. What I mean by experimental game mechanics are those little mechanics that seem kind of odd and just were an experiment saying, hey, will this be good in the game? And turns out a lot of times, yeah, they are. However, other times, they're not. I'm going to be talking about, the ones in the past games. They did this a lot in the DLC for Borderlands 2 and a lot in the pre-sequel. I'm talking about the ones I liked, the ones I didn't like, and ones I came up with myself that I think they should add and be pretty neat, and some ones that they shouldn't add. Like, not to spoil it, microtransactions. That would be experimental for Borderlands, and they really shouldn't add it. When the Vault Hunters speak, it was a pretty cool moment, especially in Borderlands 2 during the main story, when it was just one of those moments like, oh, you can talk, because it was so rare. But it did happen every once in a while, and it was just pretty neat. In one of the Headhunter DLCs for Borderlands 2, I can't remember which one it was, the one you go to the islands, I don't remember what it was called, they talked more. And I think that was when the developers thought, okay, this is a pretty cool idea, we can actually do some fun with this, tell some jokes and stuff. Problem is, in the pre-sequel, I think they took it a little too far. They had it like not so often where it's in your face, but not often enough to make it rare. It seemed awkward, and the jokes weren't even that good. And especially in the first few minutes of the game, they front loaded it. Every interaction you talked for the first 5 minutes of the game, and I personally didn't like it, even the first time playing through, because I remember watching the commercials for pre-sequel, and I'm like, okay, that seems cool, the Vault Hunters can talk, that could be really funny. And it was sometimes, but when they front-loaded it, even the first time playing through, I'm like, God, I hope it's not like this the whole game. And it wasn't, it backed off. I think they just kind of forgot that they said they were going to do that. And it just wasn't as funny as it should have been. So I do hope they talk, but I hope they at least make it funny, or just do a better job of balancing it, so it's not like they talk non-stop in the first few minutes of the game and then just shut up for the rest of it, because that was just weird. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about this big ugly word that has plagued gaming for the past few years and only seems to be getting worse as time goes on. Now, microtransactions has their place in certain games, but those would be like free-to-play games that they just need some money out of it, and that makes sense, because, I mean, you're given a free game, you don't have to pay money for it, but that makes more sense. But assuming that Borderlands 3 is going to come out a full-price $60 game, there's no need for microtransactions. Absolutely no need. And while Randy Pitchford has already come out in interviews saying that there will be no microtransactions in the next Gearbox game, it's still a possibility. Now, not a high one obviously, because he already come out and said they won't, but just be aware of that. Keep your eyes open when they finally do start releasing content, just in case you see anything that looks a little off. Another ugly term that comes along with a lot of microtransactions would be a loot box system. And while Borderlands is kind of already somewhat set up for a loot box system, being, just randomized loot is kind of where a lot of the game is, I don't think they should actually include a real loot box system in the game, because that would take away from grinding for bosses over and over again, killing just for that, what you want. Now, they already somewhat have a quote-unquote loot box in the game being the golden key and golden crate in Sanctuary. And that's about as far as I think it should go. I think it should keep that because it's great. It keeps people active in the community. You know, look into Twitter and all these other places just to follow, and you know, it grows the community, and that's great. I think that's fantastic that they keep that up. But it shouldn't go anywhere beyond that, especially if they include microtransactions with that. You should not have to pay real money for a random bit of loot in Borderlands. That just sounds stupid. On paper, out loud, in theory, everything. It just sounds terrible. So I don't think they will include a loot box system. Again, it's all entirely possible. We gotta keep our eyes open when they finally start releasing content. Now obviously there's tons of other things they could add that I couldn't even conceive of, because the Borderlands team is good with coming up with fresh ideas for the most part, and a lot of them, you know, work out great. So I'm excited to see what they do come up with for this new game. However, I did have some ideas of my own. One thing that I think will divide a lot of people would be the introduction of melee weapons. Now, I'm not even sure if I'm for or against it yet, because Borderlands have always been about guns, lots and lots of guns. And adding melee would take away from a lot of that, which is a shame because usually in games I prefer melee. And obviously that a lot of people disagree. They prefer guns, bigger, better, stronger guns, and I completely understand that. I just enjoy melee weapons, and I don't think it would make a good inclusion for Borderlands, but if they do it right, it could definitely mix things up and be interesting. I'm just curious as to see where they could go from that. And like I said, all these things are entirely possible. Who knows? They can do whatever they want with their game. Another thing I want to see more of in Borderlands 3 is interaction between the map. Not only like the player in the map, but the enemies in the map too. I want to see maybe destructible barricades. Obviously not fully destructible buildings, because that just isn't Borderlands and it'd be really weird to see. But like a barricade you can destroy. So there's like one guy's hiding behind a barricade, boom, destroy the barricade. Just an idea. Not all barricades, obviously, not all anything. And maybe on the flip side, have enemies be able to do it too, so you're not always safe where you think you would be. Just something to add something to the random factor of the game. You know, make it more interesting. It's just an idea. I'm sure the Borderlands team, you know, they would do good with it if they thought of it, and who knows, it might be something that we can see. I just hope that the team behind Borderlands 3 really experiments and tries out what's good, and not everything's gonna make it to the final game, and that's okay, but as long as they know that the ideas weren't good, not just say, it doesn't really sound like a good idea, let's not do it. Because those are the kind of game mechanics that make for really fun games, are the ones that you don't think would actually be good, but in practice are awesome. So I'm looking forward to see what they actually come up with for the final game. I saved this one for the end of the video because I'm still torn on if I personally want it handled in Borderlands 3. What I consider floating is like the double jump and the stomp and all that jazz from the pre-sequel, like the low gravity. It was enjoyable in the pre-sequel, I guess, but it got old pretty quick, like the speaking. That's really what Borderlands pre-sequel should be called. It's just Borderlands, the game mechanics that get old fast. Because it was fun at first, but a whole nother game of it would just be ridiculous. I really can't see them going back to it other than maybe a few small sections where you go on this new planet's moon. But if the big chunk of the game is spent in low gravity, it just won't be enjoyable for a lot of people, me included. I think they did it alright in the pre-sequel, and they should just stop it while they're somewhat ahead. That about does it for this video. Be sure to check out my other channel, YC Games, and leave a comment, tell me how to get better, because obviously I'm not very good at this and would like any feedback I can get. And thank you. See you in part 6 about vehicles.